Hi guys. So good morning everyone. So we came to the last session of the making of the Indian Constitution. After this session, since we are going to complete the topic, we will do some MCQs. As I said before, in my channel we will get the topic explanation as well as the MCQ too, right? Which will help you to revise the topic and to assess ourselves that how far we understood the topic, right? Even after completing the MCQs, we are going to do salient features of the constitution, which is the next topic of the syllabus. So I also like to announce that we are going to start the history in our channel. So within the coming new year, that is in January, we will start the history. Okay, I'll give the schedule of the classes soon for the history. So maybe within 1 week I'll give the schedule and we will start in the Jan for the history so that we can cover both polity and history simultaneously in our channel. Right. So as I said before, this channel is for those guys who want to prepare for the competitive exams to fulfill their dreams but could not find any guidance, for those who want to have classes for free of cost, who cannot pay thousands or lakhs of amount for coaching. For them I designed this channel, okay, so that I can provide complete explanation MCQ at a single place. These courses are also useful for freshers, okay, because I'm giving from the syllabus according to the order I'm giving. For those who are confused at what stage we have to start the syllabus preparation, for them it is very much useful. Chalo then, let's move on to the details of the session. The Constituent Assembly, on the last day of its session, they declared the Speaker and the President of the country. So what was the last date for the Constituent Assembly? We have discussed this in the last class. So the last day for the Constituent Assembly was 24th January 1950. So on that day, on 24th January 1950, the Speaker and the President of the country was elected. So who was the Speaker here? The first Speaker of the Constituent Assembly was G.V. Mavalankarji. G.V. Mavalankarji was the Speaker and the Rajendra Prasad ji was elected as the first President of India, who was the President of the Constituent Assembly. Rajendra Prasad ji was the President of the Constituent Assembly and the same person was elected as a Speaker of India also. So the first speaker of India was G.V. Mavalankarji and the first president is Rajendra Prasad ji. On which date they were selected? They were selected on the 24th January 1950 itself. Right. So here, the last president of the Constituent Assembly was elected as a president of India. But ours is a democratic country. The people has to select the representative. So how long the Rajendra Prasad ji will function as a president, because he is not selected by the people, he is not selected through the elections. So not only the president, other representative persons in the position has also been selected. They have to be selected because ours is a representative form of government, democracy. Okay. So the elections has to be conducted. So the Constituent Assembly continued as a provincial parliament of India from January 26, 1950. Till when? Till the completion of the first general elections in India. So immediately we cannot conduct an election. We need some time to conduct the election. So till we conduct the election, whoever the members of the Constituent Assembly are there, they will only continue as a members of the provincial parliament also. So when we conducted the elections, the first general elections in our independent India was conducted in 1951-52. So till then, the constituent members will be acting as a provincial parliament members also. Hope you understood this, guys. So the first point here is the first speaker of the Constituent Assembly was G.V. Mavalankar ji, and who was the first president? Dr. Rajendra Prasad ji. So why they have not elected through the elections? Because they need some time to go for the general elections. So the general elections were conducted in 1951-52. So till then, the Constituent Assembly has continued as a provincial parliament. Now, moving on. So next we have not discussed about the committees of the Constituent Assembly. So in the last session I said that there are different committees who are taking the responsibility in the preparation of the constitution in the Constituent Assembly. So if you go for the committees, this is again very important. Many times the questions were asked regarding these committees. So altogether in the Constituent Assembly we are having 22 committees. So how many committees we are having? We are having 22 committees. Out of these 22 committees, 10 committees are the procedural affairs, 10 committees relates to the procedural affairs, and 12 committees they were on the substantive affairs. Okay, substantive affairs will be considered or considerable affairs. Clear? I am repeating this point once again. So totally we are having 22 committees. Out of this 22 committees, 10 committees are for the procedural affairs and 12 committees are for the substantive affairs. Now the question is, what is this procedural affairs? Procedural affairs is nothing but related to the procedure used by the court or other bodies administering the substantive affairs or considerable affairs. Clear? I am repeating once again. Procedural affairs are related to the procedures that are used for the administering of the substantive affairs. So that is procedural affairs. Now moving on, procedural affairs is nothing but related to the procedures used. We have discussed used for the substantive affairs that we have discussed. Now what is the substantive affairs? It involves the matter related to the major or the particular importance of all concerned. I repeat this, substantive affairs means the matter related to the major or the particular importance to all concerned. So important matters which is concerned for all, that will be looked after by the substantive affairs, and the administrative work of the substantive affairs will be looked after by the procedural affairs. Now hope it is clear for you, right? So let me explain for you once again. So we are having 22 committees. Out of 22 committees, we are having 10 committees for the procedural affairs and 12 committees for the substantive affairs. Now what is procedural affairs? So first we will see what is substantive affairs. Substantive affairs means the matters related to the importance, means major or a particular importance to all concerned. Means if any matter is important for many people, concern for many people, that matter will be looked after by this substantive affairs committee. And whatever the administrative work that is there for the substantive affairs committee, that administrative work, that is the procedural affairs, will be looking after this administrative works. Clear? Now moving on. So we are having many major committees, and the major committees with the chairmans have been listed out here. So out of all these major committees, see here for the drafting committee, Ambedkar ji is there. Just a minute. For the drafting committee, Ambedkar ji is there. Okay, Union Powers Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru. Union Constitution Committee, again Jawaharlal Nehru. Provincial Constitution Committee, Vallabhbhai Patel. Rules of the Procedure Committee, again Rajendra Prasad ji. So in this way, I have given you the list of committees with their chairman. Okay, so of all these committees, the Fundamental Rights Committee will be there. So this Fundamental Rights Committee, this committee has totally 54 members in this committee. Okay, that is very important. Why I'm stressing this point is this question was asked many times. The Fundamental Rights Committee is having how many members? The Fundamental Rights Committee was given highest importance, and this committee is having 54 members in this. Clear? So please do not neglect this. Fundamental Rights Committee is having how many members? 54 members. Clear? Now, please remember all these committees' names also. They are very important. Now, moving on. Advisory Committee. So, Advisory Committee on the Fundamental Rights. Here the minorities and the tribal and the excluded areas, Vallabhbhai Patel ji was the head of this Fundamental Rights Committee or the Advisory Committee. And this Advisory Committee is again having subcommittees. Just remember, I am stressing the fundamental committees or the advisory committees. The reason here is it is very important for your exams. That is the reason why I am stressing on this. The advisory committees is having subcommittees. And the subcommittees that are present in the advisory committee are, first of all, advisory committee chairman was the Vallabhbhai Patel ji, and this advisory committee is having subcommittees. First one is the Fundamental Rights Committee, and here the chairman was the Kripalini. Okay, J.B. Kripalini ji, and the minority subcommittees here the H.C. Mukherjee ji. Okay, and Northeast Frontier Tribal Areas and some excluded and partially excluded areas committees. Here again the Gopnath ji. So here you have to remember all these names. Along with that, there are some of the important names that we have to discuss. First of all, remember how many committees are there, and then who are the heads of the committees. Some major 22 committees. It is not very difficult for you to remember. So remember the 22 committees and the chairmans over there. Okay. Now the drafting was prepared by B.N. Rao ji. So who is B.N. Rao ji? He was the advisor of the Constituent Assembly. We have already discussed about that. So the draft was prepared by B.N. Rao ji. And this draft committee was set up on August 29th, 1947. Again, these dates are important here. And the chairman of the draft committee was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji. So in this draft committee, totally we are having 7 members along with the chairman. So along with Ambedkar ji, we have 7 members only in the draft committee. Clear? And this draft committee sat for 114 days. Means totally it took 114 days only for drafting. Here let me tell you, the Constituent Assembly has conducted in 11 sessions. The whole Constituent Assembly was conducted in 11 sessions, and with these 11 sessions have been completed in 164 days. Clear? I am repeating. Within 164 days, the Constituent Assembly has been conducted 11 sessions. And out of this 165 days, so it's not 64, 65 days, 114 days were been taken by the draft committee only. Please do not get confused with these figures. Total number of days for the Constituent Assembly is 165 days. How many sessions? 11 sessions. The number of days for draft committee is 114 days. Clear? So out of 165 days, 114 days were taken by the draft committee. So please do not get confused with this. And coming to this drafting, they gave 3 drafts before the submitting the final draft time. So before submitting the final constitution, they have to do some corrections. So these are called as drafting. And how many drafting they did? 3 drafts they did before submission. The first draft, here I gave the dates for the drafting also. The first draft was given by on 21st February 1948. And when the first draft was submitted, at that time the number of articles in our constitution was 315 articles and 8 schedules. Later on, many other articles were been added. And remember one thing, just easy to remember, all the 3 draftings have been done in 1 year only. That is, in 1948 itself, you have all the 3 draftings. The second drafting in October 1948 and the third drafting, that is the last drafting. Here you have to remember again the last draft number also, means when it was conducted, the date. The reason here is, I'll go for the reason. First, let me tell you the date for the last drafting, 4th November 1948. So, they have 3 draftings. Clear? 3 draftings in 1948. One in February, other one is October, and next one is November. Please remember the dates of the 3 drafting. And along with the 3 draftings, they have also done 3 readings also. Clear? So the third drafting is also called as first reading. Means when they submitted the third drafting on 4th November 1948, on the same date itself, the first reading means they will read in the Constituent Assembly. If anyone is having any objections, then the objections will be considered or kept for the discussions. So when this reading has started, on the third draft day itself, the first reading has been started. So totally here, if you observe, we are having 3 drafting and 3 readings also are there. Clear? Now, moving on. The first reading was on the last drafting day, that was on 4th November. That's the second reading is on 15th November to 17th October 1949, and third reading 14th November to 26th November 1949. So all these are very, very important for you guys. After the third reading, the constitution was declared adopted. Means this is the last reading. After this reading, on the same day itself, the constitution was adopted, and you can find this date in our preamble also. Right. So if you remember, when we were discussing about the preamble, in the preamble we have a date, and that date is November 26, 1949. Okay. So it is important for you. Now moving on. We already discussed that we had 299 members in the constitution after the Muslim League left. Means when they decided that the Pakistan will be separated and the Pakistan will have a separate constitution, Constituent Assembly, then many of the Muslim League members have left. So 299 members are left behind with the Indian Constituent Assembly. Out of this 299 members, on the last date, we have only 284 members. So 284 members were present in the Constituent Assembly on November 26, 1949. And all these 284 members' signature were taken to the constitution. When the constitution was adopted, all the 284 members' signatures will be there in the constitution in a row. Right? All the members, the president of the Constituent Assembly, everyone's signature will be identified. And the original constitution contained 395 articles with 8 schedules. Just compare with the number of articles during the first drafting, and finally after the third reading the number of articles have increased and it is 395 articles. Okay, preamble was enacted after the enactment of the constitution, and the preamble was the last to be adopted and the enacted. So which was enacted last, means whether the constitution or preamble. Preamble was adopted and enacted last. Clear? Now moving on. Constitution came into force on January 26, 1950. No doubt on that same day it was adopted and it was enforced. Please note the difference between the adopted and enforced. Adopted date was 26th November. Enforced date was January 26th. Don't get confused. I repeat this once again. Adopted date was 26th November. Okay. Enforced date is 26th January. Both are 26th. The only thing is November, January. Clear? And the year will also change. And on the same day we will celebrate the Republic Day. Now the question is, why only that day was considered? Why January 26, 1950 is considered? Why not some other day? Because the reason here is, following the resolution of the Lahore session in 1929 of the Indian National Congress, Purna Swaraj was celebrated on 26th January 1930. Clear? Purna Swaraj was celebrated on 26th January in 1930, 20 years before the Republic Day. So, on the same day, we want to celebrate the Republic Day also. So, that's the reason why they have selected that particular day. And on this day, on 26th January 1930, Jawaharlal Nehru ji hosted the national flag on the bank of river Ravi. Clear? So on that day we are going to celebrate the Republic Day. These are all the miscellaneous points, but very important for your examination. And totally it took 2 years, 11 months, 18 days for the constitution to be completed. Okay, it is again asked many times in the examinations, in all types of competitive examination, not only UPSC. So how many days it took? 2 years, 11 months, 18 days for the constitution to be completed, and of these 165 days are the working days for the Constituent Assembly and 114 days for the drafting committee. Clear? And the father of the Constituent Assembly is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji is considered as a father of the Constituent Assembly. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji was the first law minister of the nation also. Please remember this. He was the first law minister of the nation from August 15, 1946 to January 26, 1950. For a short period, he acted as a first law minister. So, the father of the nation is Mahatma Gandhi ji, but father of the constitution is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji. Right. The provisional parliament, it has been, I told you, the Constituent Assembly is acting as a provisional parliament till we complete the general elections. So, after completing the general elections, the provisional parliament has been seized. That was in April 17, 1952. In April 17, 1952, the provisional parliament was seized. Okay. After 1 month. Okay. The first general election for the two houses came into being in May 1952. So after 1 month of the seizing of the provisional parliament, we had the elections and we had the first elected parliament. Please remember this year 1952 is very important here. Right. So except some of the provisions related to the citizenship, elections. So some of the provisions like citizenship, elections, provisional parliament, temporary and the transitional provisions, with rest of the constitution came into force on the 26th January 1950. These are the points which were not being came into force on January 26, 1950, but rest all were being considered. Okay, but the provision which I just mentioned were given immediate effect from November 26 itself, date of adopted. When it was adopted, on that day only this citizenship, elections, everything has been came into provision. Clear guys? So I'm repeating once again, except these citizenships, elections, provisional parliament, etc., rest all came into force on January 26. And whatever the provisions that I have mentioned, they were given immediate effect from 26th November 1949. Even this was asked many times in the examination. Make the difference, when do the constitution came into force? Okay. Chalo. Except a few. What are the few exceptions? Citizenship, elections, provisional parliament, and temporary and transitional provisions. Except these few exceptions, rest all have been came into force on January 26, 1950. Clear guys? So when these came into force? On November 26. So this is all about the making of the Indian Constitution. Clear? So in the next session I'll provide you the MCQ, few of the MCQs for your revision and for the practice, and after this I'll start the salient features of the Indian Constitution. Okay, I'm going according to the syllabus itself, so please make a note of it. Okay, chalo. Subscribe the channel and click the bell icon. Stay tuned for my next upcoming video. Thank you guys.